Padres Radio Network.
Jackson swings, hits it in the air, deep to right field. He has done it again. Unbelievable.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt.
Ultimately, what we're here to do is win.
From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today, the Padres take on the Toronto Blue Jays in the first game of a three-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today: on the mound for the Blue Jays, right-hander Chris Bassett, and on the mound for the Padres, right-hander Dylan Cease. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 4:07 p.m. here on the West Coast. Coming up next 50 minutes, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll also hear from Blue Jays broadcaster Dan Schulman. We'll check in with Bob Scanlon in Toronto in just a few minutes. Our keys to the game, what to watch for, and a full breakdown of our starting pitching matchup. All that and more coming your way in the next 50 minutes. But first, it's time to set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971, with 3 locations: La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside, and at FraserFarmsMarket.com. Padres come in 27-18. Padres have lost 3 in a row, and they are now just 2-5 in their last 7 games. But even with all that, they enter today just a half game behind the LA Dodgers for first place in the National League West. Meanwhile, the Blue Jays come in 22-24. They enter today 5 games out of first place in the American League East. Blue Jays have lost 4 of their last 6 games, but they have been in those games. 5 of those 6 games decided by 2 runs or fewer. Well, the Padres had a rough series against the Mariners last weekend. Let's quickly rewind to the series finale.
Did you miss what happened in the last Padres game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind on the Padres Radio Network.
We had a really good pitching matchup on Sunday. Michael King on the mound for the Padres, Brian Wu on the mound for Seattle. In the bottom half of the first inning, Fernando Tatis Jr. led off.
Here's the 0-2, and Tatis swings, hits it in the air, deep to left field. Arozarena back to watch this one. Gonna go! Leadoff homer, Fernando Tatis Jr. Second straight at bat against Brian Wu that he takes him out, and this one gives the Padres a 1-0 lead.
King was cruising in the 4th inning. He got the first 2 outs of the frame, but then the trouble began. Randy Arozarena dug in.
1-1 pitch is launched to left field. Sheets is back to watch, and it's going to go. Home run, Randy Arozarena, his 6th of the year. No doubter out to left field here in the top of the 4th inning. And the Mariners have hit yet another home run. This one ties it up 1-1, their first hit of the day.
Rowdy Tellez then doubled off the fence and left. Mitch Garver hit a slow roller up the third base side for an infield single. Leody Taveras was next.
Ready to go after the mound visit. Taveras batting left-handed. First and third, 2 down, tie game. First pitch swinging and a line drive deep to right field. That's going to be trouble. It'll bounce and hit the wall of the Petco porch and then skip over the wall for a rule book double, which will at least for the moment save a run. Tellez comes in to score to give the Mariners a 2-1 lead, but Garver, who is going to score easily, has to stop at third base.
Mariners weren't done. That brought up Miles Mastrobuoni.
This one is hit off the glove of King. It'll roll out to second base. Cronenworth will not even try the glove flip as another run comes in to score. Garver crosses the plate on the second infield hit of the inning. Mariners have now scored 3 times here in the 4th, and they lead it 3-1.
Mariners had a 3-run, 2-out rally. They led 3-1. King gave up an unearned run in the 6th inning. Mariners led 4-1. Mariners would get 2 more runs later in the game, and that was that. Final score on Sunday, the Mariners 6 and the Padres 1. It was a really rough offensive series for the Padres. They scored just 3 runs total in the series, 1 on Friday, 1 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday, and the Padres went a combined 0 for 21 with runners in scoring position. And now after an off day in Toronto yesterday, they try to get things back on track here today as they begin a 6-game road trip to Toronto and Atlanta. Speaking of Toronto, let's go up to Canada to the Rogers Centre.
let's take a trip up to the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup with Bob Scanlon in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Bob Scanlon joining Tony Gwynn Jr. on today's radio broadcast. Scan, good to have you on the radio side of things today. Well, before we get to baseball, you had the chance to enjoy an off day north of the border in Toronto yesterday. What'd you get up to yesterday?
Just getting up was an issue, Sam. You roll in at 3 o'clock in the morning and you try to get a little bite to eat from room service and the bags arrive. And then, you know, next thing you know, it's 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So I didn't fight it yesterday. Sometimes I try to fight it and just say, no, I'm going to get on this new time schedule, you know, East Coast time zone, whatever. No, yesterday I just slept in, Sam, to be honest with you. Found myself a restaurant, which wasn't easy yesterday because it was Victoria Day up here, so everything was closed. But found a nice place to get a bite to eat, got a workout in, and ready to go, ready to watch some Padres baseball out here in the Great North.
Okay, good to hear. Rested up, ready for a big series in Toronto. Let's talk a little bit of pitching here, Scan. Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres. Last 2 starts have been his best of the season. 13 innings and a third, just 3 runs given up, 19 strikeouts combined. Had a really nice outing last week against the Angels. What's been the biggest difference for Dylan Cease the last couple of outings compared to the first month of the season where things weren't exactly at their highest level for Dylan Cease?
Now, I would say his best friend showed up, which is his slider, right? I mean, the man wrote a poem on it. Oh, slider, slide. It wasn't sliding the way he wanted it to the first 6 or 7 games. But, you know, actually, it started showing up in the Pittsburgh game. And to your point, it really came through numerically against the Yankees in his last outing as well, where he had the big punch-out numbers. But you could just tell. The slider is back. It has the shape that he's accustomed to having. And when you have that, I mean, it just helps everything else be that much better in terms of the batters not being able to focus on one part of the strike zone because the slider had been looking a little bit more like a cutter. And now as a hitter, I can say, okay, I don't have to worry about north and south quite as much. I can kind of hunt up and out over. If I get a fastball, I can get a better piece of it, and I don't have to worry about swinging over the top of that filthy slider. But when the slider showed back up, you know, it started in Pittsburgh, really, from what I could see. It was a whole different ballgame. All of a sudden, that slider is back to the swing and miss pitch that it is, and it really helps set up the fastball upstairs as well. So he's got his 2 best friends back, the slider and the fastball at 97 miles an hour at the top part of the zone. And when Dylan has those 2 pitches going on, Sam, as we know, any night can be a potential no-hit type night, and that's what we've seen the last 2 outings. It's a good sign.
Let's talk about the other side of this pitching matchup. Veteran right-hander Chris Bassitt on the mound for Toronto. He's somebody the Padres have seen quite a bit of over the years. What do you expect tonight from Chris Bassitt?
Well, the usual, right? Kitchen sink. The guy has 8 different pitches that he can throw up there. He's not going to challenge you per se with a 91-mile-an-hour sinker that he only throws 40% of the time. You're going to see a lot of other stuff, right? So I think the key thing, and I'll leave this up to Tony, he's the hitting guru, but it seems to me like this is one of those classic nights where you don't want to chase. You do not want to start going after the Chris Bassitt repertoire that starts off on the corners where he likes to nibble and live and hopefully get ahead and then start expanding on you. So that's going to be the challenge for the Padre hitters tonight, in my opinion, is just being disciplined and not letting Chris Bassitt force you to start chasing things all around the zone.
Finally, Scans, let's talk a little offense because no secret, it was a rough offensive series for the Padres at home against the Mariners. 3 combined runs, no hits with runners in scoring position. To you, how do the Padres unlock this offense in Toronto?
Well, I don't think you really need to do anything dramatically different, right? It's not as though this has been a chronic problem all season long and, oh, my gosh, what are we going to do? We need to change the approach. No, we know what the approach is. The approach has worked. It all worked all last year. It's worked all season this year. Couple of things. First of all, give some credit to the Mariners pitchers. They did a really nice job, especially their bullpen, who traditionally had walked a lot of guys, but they didn't walk anybody. They came right after the Padres. They were very aggressive in the zone, and a lot of the scoring opportunities for the Padres came with 2 outs. I thought the Mariners did a nice job of not making mistakes with 2 outs, not giving in to the Padres. And from the Padres side of things, I think, you know, it could have been a little bit of a situation where, you know, number one, are you going after the pitch that you want to get to? And number 2, when you do get that pitch, are you thinking the right thing that you want to think? Are you thinking opposite field? Are you thinking base hit? Or are you thinking, oh, I've got a chance to come out of my shoes right here and hit a 3-run home run to, you know, put us back in this ball game? So I think that's from the Padre perspective, not changing the approach, just reevaluating, okay, was I going after the pitches I need to go after? And when I was I thinking the right thing in terms of what I wanted to do with that ball? As you know, am I thinking opposite field? Am I looking? I'm hunting a breaking pitch and I can turn on it or whatever it may be. So, look, let's not make a mountain out of a molehill. It's a 3-game series. Nice little day off, and the boys can reset and hopefully get back to driving in runs the way we've seen them do for the better part of the year.
All right, Scans, good insight as always. We'll talk to you and Tony coming up just before the bottom of the hour. We've got an interesting first pitch time in this series, a 4:07 p.m. exact first pitch time here on the West Coast. So we'll talk to you and Tony just before the bottom of the hour. As always, thanks so much. Have a good call.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sam.
All right, that is Bob Scanlon joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network. Yeah, just so you know, it is a bit of a weird first pitch time, exactly scheduled for 4:07 p.m. Here in San Diego, so you don't want to miss it. Be ready at 4:07, and the way you can do that, keep it right here to the Padres Radio Network. We've got plenty to do here on our pregame coverage. As always, if you want to get involved, you can do that in a number of different ways. You can find me on X at Sammy Lev, SammyLev. Instagram DM's open as well. Sammy Lev there too. You can also comment on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube channel. If you're watching our pregame coverage, let me know, what is your key to today's game? How do the Padres get back on track in Toronto? May just read your key to the game coming up a little bit later on. When we come back, we hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Much more to do on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for this series opener between the Padres and the Toronto Blue Jays. Padres trying to get things back on track after a rough weekend series against the Seattle Mariners. We'll see if they can do that today with right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres. Veteran righty Chris Bassett on the mound for Toronto. We'll continue to preview our starting pitching matchup as our pregame coverage rolls along. Let's hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt before today's game.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Served up by Sin Lee Food, where fresh meets flavor. Find farm fresh produce, bold Asian spices, and gourmet ingredients at 4665 El Cajon Boulevard. Sin Lee Food, the cook's Asian resource.
Padres manager Mike Shildt speaking with the media earlier today inside the Padres dugout. And as we talked about with Bob Scanlon in our opening segment, Dylan Cease has been very, very good his last couple of outings. Here was Mike Shildt on Dylan Cease continuing his recent success here tonight.
Dylan can string it together with the best of them. That's why he's been one of the most successful, consistent pitchers in baseball for several years now. So sliders back to elite levels, not only in the movement and the shape, but in the command of it. It's that right on the precipice ball, strike. Oh, just kidding, and so he's been in a really good spot, and looking forward to seeing what pitch tonight.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to seeing what Dylan Cease can do against this American League opponent here tonight. There was also an interesting question about Jackson Merrill earlier today in Toronto.
With Jackson signing that big contract, I mean, there was a lot of talk on the other side about Vlad. Do you get a sense that he feels maybe a little bit a sense of responsibility to the franchise, to the fan base, knowing that he's going to be around for a long time?
I think maybe a little bit more, but I think in a good way. I think he feels now more as anybody would when you're given a commitment.
Sure.
and a show of, hey, we believe in you, and we're going to back it up with the contract and the years. And first of all, you earned it completely with the year you put together last year, and it's the right investment. And but now Jackson, who already has a real desire to do well for his team and cares a lot about this organization, which is why he was so excited to have the deal in place, or at least one of them. But I do know he's now like, okay, I'm here. I'm going to be here. I can follow the footsteps of Manny and Toddy and Joe, and they've been able to help show me and shepherd me and what it looks like in the community, what it looks like to be in the clubhouse, what it looks like to take the next steps. But the good news is Jackson doesn't feel like, I don't feel like he feels this way, at least, that he has to take this multiple step. The good news is we have guys that, and this is what healthy organizations have and teams have. They have strong leadership that works together. And then when you have players like Michael Jackson come up, like a Michael King that comes up as on the pitching side, and you have Darvish, you have Musgrove, you have, Cease, you have, good leadership with Ruben and their pitching coach. Now Michael can come up and he can do his thing like he did last year. Jack will do his thing. But then as they get more footing and more traction, now they can insert themselves into, what it takes to be consistently strong in our community, from a San Diego community, but also from our community within our clubhouse.
Mike, what are some traits you don't often see, or maybe you're starting to see a little bit now, younger players getting locked up very early? What are some traits in a young player can show you in a relatively small samples that can help an organization believe this is a person that we should invest in to that degree?
I think you're starting to see, first of all, longer answer to your question, but as you look at the games turning, and I can't tell you exact time, you guys maybe have a better idea, but 8-10 years ago when we started to kind of, the game in general sort of eliminate the middle player, the superstar got a chance to move on and continue to play for 10, 12, 15, 16 years. But that guy that was getting 5 or 6 started getting weeded out for the guy that gets the opportunity at a younger level. So that started that process. And then when you start to see those players start to perform, and then it gives an organization more general confidence that they can invest in the player. And then I think it's, at least from my experience, and specific to Jackson is when you get to know the character of the player that comes through the system and how he buys in, the person, and you make the bet on the person is equal to the talent. And in our situation, you have what also to a core group around them to know that Jackson doesn't have to carry the San Diego Padres. We have other guys that can do their part, and Jackson can just do his, and know that's going to allow him just to go play.
Some interesting questions and answers there from Mike Shildt about Jackson Merrill and the contract and all that good stuff. So I thought that was worth playing for you. Some good insight there from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We will hear from Mike Shildt in our next segment, give you the latest on Yu Darvish and what might be coming for you on this road trip. We shall see. We'll hear from Mike Shildt coming up once again in just a little bit. Let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
Let's begin with a look at the hot category. Luis Arraez in that category for the Padres, batting .350 in his last 9 games, also in the midst of a 6-game hitting streak. Arraez has not struck out in his last 47 plate appearances, the longest active streak in the majors. He struck out just 1 time in his last 93 plate appearances. Arraez right now has a 1.7% strikeout rate this season. The last time a qualified hitter had a strikeout rate that low in a single season was Nellie Fox, who did it in 1961. So that's the kind of pace that Arraez is on as far as not striking out. We'll see where he ends up by the end of the season, but continues to be remarkable how he's able to put the ball in play. Bo Bichette in the hot category for the Blue Jays. He's 7 for 16 in his last 4 games, 3 extra base hits, including a home run in that span. The not category, and we'll talk a little bit more about these guys a little bit later. Jackson Merrill, his last 5 games, he's 1 for 19. Manny Machado went 0 for 11 in the series against the Mariners. That slump follows a 14-game hitting streak where he batted .480 in that span. Anthony Santander for the Blue Jays batting just .145 with 24 strikeouts in his last 20 games. And Jason Hayward, who is in the lineup today for the Padres, batting just .121 in his last 33 at-bats. And that's a look at who's hot, who's not, as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 4:07 at the Rogers Center in Toronto. Now let's take you around the horn.
Let's examine the most important news and the latest information you need to know in the world of Major League Baseball. Sam Levitt takes you around the horn. Presented by Valley View Casino and Hotel. Get ready for Major League winning when you join Valley View Casino and Hotel's Players Club and receive over $200 in free instant offers. Visit valleyviewcasino.com to learn more today.
Couple of headlines before we get to some notes about today's games. A longtime St. Louis Cardinals second baseman and 2-time Gold Glover Colton Wong has officially retired from baseball. Former major leaguer Andrew Jones has been named the manager of the Netherlands for the 2026 World Baseball Classic. That was announced earlier today, and who knows, Andrew Bogaerts could play on that team for the Netherlands. He did it in the 2023 WBC. So Andrew Jones is the manager of Team Netherlands. That's pretty cool. A few notes about the games today. The Boone brothers, Aaron and Brett, will be in opposing dugouts today as the Yankees host the Rangers. Remember, Brett Boone was recently hired as the Rangers hitting coach. Spencer Strider returns from the IL today, his first start since an internal brace procedure in April of 2024. That was back on April 16th. He gave up 2 runs in 5 innings. But then right after his first start, after returning from Tommy John, he strained his hamstring while throwing before his second start. So he'll finally make his second start of the season here tonight. Walker Buehler also returning from the IL after dealing with shoulder issues. He'll face the Mets at Fenway Park tonight. And finally, Tarek Skubal takes the ball in St. Louis against the red-hot St. Louis Cardinals. Skubal is 4-0 with a 1.87 ERA in his last 6 starts, but the Cardinals have really played well lately. They've won 13 of 15, including 6 in a row at home at Busch Stadium. And that's a look at Some of the notes around the major leagues. We'll have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard coming up a little bit later. When we come back, we hear the latest on Padres right-hander Yu Darvish as we get ready for today's game 1 of 3 in Toronto between the Padres and the Blue Jays. You're locked in to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Padres Radio Network. Hey, gang. Welcome back to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. We go out to Bob Scanlon and Tony Gwynn Jr. in just about 22 minutes here on the Padres Radio Network. First pitch coming up at 4:07 p.m. here on the West Coast as the Padres begin a 3-game series in Toronto and a 6-game road trip to Toronto and Atlanta. Will we see Yu Darvish at some point on this road trip? Let's hear a little bit more on that as we give you our full injury report.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit him up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Let's begin with a look at the Blue Jays injuries. Outfielder Anthony Santander has been in and out of the lineup the last week with shoulder and hip issues. He is DHing today for the Blue Jays, back in the lineup and batting 6th. He's had a really rough season so far. We'll talk more about Santander a little bit later. You know what? I actually should say we already talked about him, didn't we? Yeah, and who's hot, who's not. Santander batting just 145 in his last 20 games. So that's a review of Santander once again. For the Blue Jays, other injuries, infielder Andres Gimenez, he's dealing with a quad injury, not expected to return until later this month. Max Scherzer has been dealing with right thumb inflammation. He continues to work his way back. Blue Jays also without pitchers Nick Sandlin and Eric Swanson right now. As far as the Padres, couple of updates for you. Matt Waldron, who continues to work his way back from his oblique injury, and Brian Hoeing, who began dealing with that shoulder situation back in spring training. Well, good news, both those guys begin a rehab assignment starting today with Double-A San Antonio. In fact, Matt Waldron starting tonight for Double-A San Antonio. So Waldron and Hoeing continue to work their way back, and we'll see how long it takes somebody like Brian Hoeing to get enough appearances and a rehab assignment to maybe rejoin the bullpen. As far as Yu Darvish, he pitched 4 innings for AAA El Paso last Wednesday in Las Vegas. We found out after the game on Sunday that he would not pitch in this series against the Blue Jays. Here was Padres manager Mike Shildt earlier today, the latest on Yu Darvish.
Darvish is doing well, recovering, playing catch, seeing what the next steps are, and we're evaluating day by day, so stay with us.
Any feel on timeline now? Because it's been, almost a week since it started?
Not a great feel. We're taking it literally, in a big view of the season. So he'll get back to it, and we'll see where it ends up and whether he gets back to us next or what the next steps are.
Is he going to be joining you on this road trip?
There's a chance he'll be in Atlanta, yes, sir.
All right, so there you have it. A chance he will be in Atlanta to return to the Padres. So we'll see what the updates are in the days to come for Yu Darvish. And that's the latest on you, on Matt Waldron, on Brian Hoeing, and on the Blue Jays injuries as well. As always, we invite you to give us your keys to today's game, either on X or on Instagram. You can find me on both those platforms at Sammy Lev, SAMMYLEV, or you can also comment on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube page. Zach chiming in saying today's key to the game, leadoff power. Now, I have not confirmed these statistics, but I'll trust Zach here. Zach saying 12 of the Padres' 41 home runs this year have come while leading off an inning. If they can continue to attack with the first batter of each inning, it should be great. Zach, home runs would be helpful. We'll talk more about that in just a second. Let's give you our keys to today's game.
How will the Padres unlock a win today? These are the keys to the game. Presented by El Centro Motors Ford. Meet your new Ford General Manager, Greg Ryan, now at El Centro Motors Ford, your new Ford truck, Bronco, and SUV HQ. Call Greg directly at 619-944-0774.
Key number 1, and you're going to notice a theme here in the first few keys. It's going to be about the Padres offense. Key number 1. Padres went a combined 0 for 21 with runners in scoring position in their series against the Mariners. Quite simply, has to be better with runners in scoring position. Padres got to get them on and find ways to get them in. Simple. Key number 1. Key number 2, also pretty simple. Manny and Merrill, the Padres hitting third and fourth in the lineup tonight. Bottom line, they got to be more productive. Those two went a combined 1 for 22 in the 3-game series against Seattle. And by the way, the one hit was a single. Those two guys have to be better for this Padres offense to be at its highest level of production. Key number 3, let's talk about another guy, more Fernando Tatis Jr. Now, let me preface this by saying Fernando has been great so far this year, but they could use a little more from him to help pull this team out of what has been a collective slump the last few days. Fernando Tatis Jr., his first 31 games, he hit .342 with a 10-12 OPS. His last 13 games, and this includes the home run from Sunday, he's batting just .222 with a 770 OPS in his last 13 games. So the Padres could use a little bit more from Fernando in that leadoff spot. Key number 4, this is always going to be a key when you face the Blue Jays, controlling Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He is swinging the bat pretty well right now, extended his on-base streak to 19 games in the Blue Jays' last game, batting .314 with 5 extra base hits and 15 walks in that span. So he's not hitting for a ton of slug. Again, 5 extra base hits in his last 19 games, but he is getting on base. And as we know, with Vladdy Guerrero Jr., at any moment, he could hit one over the fence. So you got to be careful with Vladdy, and that's a look at our keys to today's game. Well, earlier today here on 97.3 The Fan, Blue Jays, did I say fan? 97.3 The Fan, Blue Jays broadcaster and a longtime ESPN broadcaster who's called a lot of big games in his career. You probably know his name, know his voice. Dan Schulman, he joined the Braden Soprenet show earlier today here on 97.3 The Fan. Some really, really good insight on the Blue Jays. Dan is the TV voice of the Toronto Blue Jays. Here was Dan Schulman earlier today on the Blue Jays' last 10 games. Blue Jays like we said earlier, they've struggled a bit as of late, but you zoom out a little bit, the last 10, they're actually 6-4. Here was Dan Shulman on the Blue Jays' last 10 games in their season to this point.
For the first 6 of those 10, I think they won 5 of them, they started hitting. Like overall, this team's been a little disappointing this year. They've been right in games. Like they just played the Tigers 3 one-run games, but they lost 2 of them. You know, it's one of those, I think their record's 22-24, if I'm not mistaken. And it's one of those, like every team, you remember the ones that got away more than the ones that you stole. But it feels like they should be a little bit better than they are. Not a ton better. This is not the same team from 21 and 22 that hit like crazy and had so much young talent. They're not as talented now. Some guys are older in key spots, like their starting rotation. Guerrero and Bichette are still Guerrero and Bichette. But this is a team, I think, that if they play well, can be a playoff team, but I don't think this is the same level of talent they had a few years ago. So what's going better lately is for several games, they finally started hitting. I mean, they had like 18 games in a row where they didn't score more than 4 runs, something like that. Bichette has gotten hot. Dalton Varsho's come off the IL. He had shoulder surgery in September, so he missed the first month this year. And he's hit 6 home runs in 12 games, which they have desperately needed. And then some of their Alejandro Kirk is swinging the bat very well. And even like a complimentary guy like Ernie Clement is swinging the bat very well. Some guys have started swinging it better. But in some of these games, the hitting was great and they didn't get a good start from their pitcher. Or the hitting was great and the starting pitcher was good and then the bullpen blew up. They've had trouble getting everything on the same page at the same time. It's all there, but they've got to kind of get it all going at once if they're going to win more than they lose this year.
That was Blue Jays TV broadcaster Dan Shulman earlier today here on 97.3 The Fan. Let's hear a little bit more from Dan, who had great insight on this Blue Jays ball club. Here was Dan Shulman on what we might expect from starting pitcher on the mound for Toronto here tonight.
Kitchen sink, sinker, cutter, splitter, and then a little bit of everything else. 6 or 7 pitch guy. Some people say 8, but he's kind of ditched a couple. He does not throw hard. He'll top out at 92, but he is very smart, very crafty. If he is on the edges, up, down, left, right, in, out, changing speeds, keeping them off balance, he can be great. I think he brings like a 3.16 ERA into his start here tonight. If he makes mistakes, he'll get hit. More than most because he doesn't have the power. He doesn't have the velocity. Very slow curveball, like 70 miles an hour. It might be the slowest curveball in baseball, and he'll get some really funny swings on it. But a guy who knows what he's doing out there, and if he is on, all of a sudden, you know, it's through 6 innings, and everybody's like, man, I really should have got that guy. I felt pretty good at the plate, and everybody's 0 for 3. He can do that when he's hitting the corners.
That was Blue Jays television broadcaster Dan Shulman earlier today here on 97.3 The Fan. Very good insight on the Toronto Blue Jays, and we'll talk more about Chris Bassett in our next segment. Right now, let's take you through the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
All right, Padres in the Eastern time zone, so everything either just beginning or coming up a little bit later on or much later on. At top of the first inning, Cubs and Marlins in Miami. Former Padre Ryan Weathers on the mound for the Marlins in that one. Reds and the Pirates in Pittsburgh in the first inning. They're scoreless there. Braves and the Nationals also just underway in Washington, D.C. They're scoreless in D.C. Everything else coming up a little bit later. 3:45 starting right now. Mets and the Red Sox at Fenway Park. Clay Holmes on the mound for the Mets. Walker Buehler on the mound for the Red Sox. Astros and the Rays at 4:05. Rangers and the Yankees at 4:05 in New York. Patrick Corbin on the mound for Texas. Will Warren on the mound for New York. Orioles and the Brewers at 4:40 in Milwaukee. Mariners and the White Sox at 4:40 in Chicago. Tigers and the Cardinals in St. Louis at 4:45. Tarek Skubal on the mound for the Tigers. Eric Fetty on the mound for St. Louis. Phillies in Colorado against the Rockies at 5:40. Jesus Luzardo on the mound today for Philadelphia. He's been very good at 2 ERA entering this start. Royals and the Giants in San Francisco at 6:45. Angels and the A's in Sacramento at 7:05. Diamondbacks Diamondbacks against the Dodgers at 7:10 in LA. Yoshinobu Yamamoto on the mound for LA, Ryan Nelson on the mound for Arizona. And we did have one postponement already today. Guardians and the Twins postponed due to weather. They'll make that up in September. And that's a look at the full out-of-town scoreboard on this Tuesday. When we come back, we wonder, will either of these teams, the Padres or the Blue Jays, find ways to power up today? Plus, we have a full breakdown of our starting pitching matchup between Dylan Cease and Chris Bassett. First pitch coming your way at 4:07 p.m. here in California. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues after this. Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. We go up to Toronto, Canada, to be exact, at Rogers Center at 4:07 p.m. Actually, I lied to you. Coming up at 3:57 p.m. Bob Scanlon, Tony Gwynn Jr. will have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play, but we still have a little bit to do here on our pregame coverage as we get ready for this series opener in Toronto. Let's tell you what to watch for in today's game.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For, presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game? Will either of these teams hit home runs tonight or in this series? Here's why I bring it up. Neither of these teams, the Padres and Blue Jays, are prolific home run hitting teams. Both teams are in the bottom 7 in team home runs among major league teams so far this season. The Padres have only hit 41 in 45 games. Blue Jays have hit 40 in 46 games. And since that 21-run, 5-home run game in Colorado, the Padres have only hit 5 home runs combined in their last 7 games. So what am I looking for here tonight and in this series? Will either of these teams power up? Are we going to see home runs, or will this be sort of a move the line drive, score runs with singles and doubles and triples kind of series? Keep an eye on that. These two teams, so far this year, they don't hit a lot of home runs. That's what to watch for in today's game. Good starting pitching matchup. Couple of veteran right-handers. Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres. Chris Bassett on the mound for Toronto. Let's dive in.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Right-hander Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres here tonight. 29 years old. He comes in this season 1-2, a 4.60 ERA, 9 starts on the year, 47 innings, 58 strikeouts, and 18 walks. His last start against the Angels, he was good. 6 2/3 innings, 2 runs given up, struck out a season-high 10. Last 2 outings have been his best of the year. 13 innings and a third, 3 runs given up, 19 strikeouts, and opposing hitters are batting just 133 against Dylan Cease in those last 2 outings. He's made 2 career starts against the Blue Jays, and they both came when he was with the White Sox, and both were really good. 13 innings combined, 1 run given up. He struck out 18 in those 2 starts. So we'll see if Dylan Cease can keep it going against the Blue Jays here today. Meanwhile, right-hander Chris Bassett on the mound for Toronto, 36 years old. Here in 2025, he's 3-2, a 3.16 ERA, 9 starts this season, 51+ innings. He struck out 55 and walked 10. Last start against the Rays, 5 2/3 innings, 1 run allowed. It was a bounce-back outing for Bassett. He posted a 6.04 ERA in his prior 4 starts, 6 home runs given up in those 4. He was really, really good at the start of the year, posted a 0.77 ERA in his first 4 starts of the season. Faced the Padres last season in San Diego, went 5 innings and a third, 2 earned runs given up, gave up a home run to Xander Bogaerts. And by the way, Xander is 5 for 9 in his career against Chris Bassett. This will be Bassett's 6th career regular season start against the Padres. Remember, the Padres beat him in the 2022 NL Wildcard Series when he was a member of the New York Mets. And that's a look at our starting pitching matchup here today. Chris Bassett on the mound for Toronto, and Dylan Cease, number 84, on the mound for the Padres. As always, thank you for listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Your water should be perfect. Let's set the table one more time for you before we get things up to Bob Scanlon and Tony Gwynn Jr. Padres come in 27-18. Blue Jays enter today 22-24. Now their team playing great right now. Padres have lost 3 in a row. They're now 2-5 in their last 7 games. Padres swept over the weekend at home by the Mariners. Blue Jays have lost 4 of their last 6 games, but both these teams in the midst of their respective divisional races. Padres enter today, believe it or not, just a half game behind the Dodgers for first place in the National League West, and the Blue Jays just 5 games out of first place in the American League East. So we'll see if the Padres can get things back on track in Canada here on the Padres Radio Network. When we come back, Bob Scanlon, Tony Gwynn Jr. have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and then all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post. Listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.